Look, I'm going to save you years of financial mistakes in the next 40 minutes. This is the question that determines whether you build wealth or stay broke forever. Should you invest your extra money or pay off debt? And before you give me some wishy-washy "it depends" answer, yes, it depends, but not on what you think. It depends on mathematics, not emotions. It depends on interest rates, not how you feel about debt. It depends on logic that Charlie Munger understood perfectly and that most of you completely ignore. Here's what this costs you if you get it wrong: decades of unnecessary interest payments. Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars wasted. The difference between retiring at 55 or working until 70. The difference between financial freedom and financial slavery. Most people get this wrong because they listen to their feelings instead of doing the math. They pay off 3% mortgages while carrying 18% credit card debt. They invest in stocks returning 8% while ignoring student loans at 7%. They make emotional decisions that cost them fortunes. Charlie Munger made billions by thinking rationally when everyone else thought emotionally. And this debt versus investing question, it's one of the clearest examples of how rational thinking beats emotional thinking every single time. So here's what we're doing. I'm going to break down exactly when you should pay off debt, when you should invest, and when you should do both. With real numbers, real examples, real math. No emotion, no financial guru bullshit, just logic. Let's go. Here's the principle that determines everything. Compare the interest rate you're paying on debt to the return you expect from investing. Whichever number is higher, do that first. Sounds simple, right? It is simple. But most of you screw this up because you don't actually do the math. You just follow advice from your parents or some financial influencer who doesn't understand basic arithmetic. Let me break this down. If you have credit card debt at 18% interest and you're investing in stocks hoping for 10% returns, you're being an idiot. Full stop. You're losing 8% on the arbitrage. Every dollar you invest instead of paying off that debt costs you 8 cents per year. Forever. Until the debt is gone. But if you have a mortgage at 3% interest and you're investing in stocks earning 10%, you're making 7% on the arbitrage. Every dollar you invest instead of paying extra on the mortgage earns you 7 cents per year. Compounded. For decades. This is the framework Charlie would use. He wasn't sentimental about debt. He didn't care about being debt-free as an emotional goal. He cared about mathematics, about making decisions that maximized wealth over time. Here's what I actually believe. High interest debt is an emergency. Low interest debt is a tool. And the difference between the two is usually around 6 to 7%. Above that rate, debt is destroying you. Below that rate, debt might actually be helping you build wealth if you're investing the difference. Let me give you the numbers that matter. Credit card debt, 15 and 25% interest. Always pay this off first. Personal loans, 8-15% interest. Almost always pay off before investing. Student loans, 4-8% interest. It depends. We'll break this down. Car loans, 3-7% interest. It depends on the rate and your situation. Mortgage, 3-7% interest. Usually invest instead of paying extra 0% promotional debt. Keep it and invest, but only if you're disciplined. And here's what you do. Instead of following this framework, you follow your emotions. You hate debt, so you pay off your 3% mortgage while carrying 19% credit card debt. Or you love investing, so you buy stocks while drowning in 15% student loans. Both approaches are mathematically stupid. Let me tell you about someone who got this right. Guy owed $30,000 on credit cards at 18% interest. That's costing him $500 to $400 per year in interest. He also had $20,000 he was thinking about investing. If he invested that $20,000 hoping for 10% returns, he'd make $2,000 per year. But he's still paying $5,400 in credit card interest. Net loss? $3,400 per year. If he paid off $20,000 of the credit card debt, he'd save $3,600 per year in interest. He's $3,600 better off. And that $3,600 savings is guaranteed, unlike investment returns, which aren't. So he paid off $20,000 of the debt. Then he took the $5,400 he'd been paying in credit card interest annually and invested it. Within 4 years, he paid off the remaining $10,000 and started investing $5,400 per year. After 20 more years, that became over $300,000. If he kept the debt and invested from the start, he'd still be paying credit card interest, and his investments would have been killed by the interest costs. He'd be nowhere. The math is simple. Paying off 18% debt gives you a guaranteed 18% return. You're not getting a guaranteed 18% return in the stock market, so you pay off the debt first. Your action today? List every debt you have with its interest rate. Calculate the total interest you're paying annually on each one. Compare those rates to realistic investment returns. Use 8% as a benchmark for stocks. Any debt over 7 to 8% should be paid off before you invest another dollar. Any debt under 4 to 5% probably shouldn't be rushed. Invest instead. The credit card emergency. Why this debt will destroy your life. Here's the brutal truth. If you have credit card debt, you have a financial emergency, not a problem, not a situation, an emergency. And until it's gone, you shouldn't be investing, buying new cars, taking vacations, or doing anything except eliminating that debt. Credit card debt is typically 15-25% interest. Some cards are even higher. This is loan shark territory, and if you're carrying a balance at these rates, you're being financially murdered every single month. Let me show you what 18% interest actually costs. Say you have $10,000 plus in credit card debt. At 18% interest, you're paying $800 per year just in interest, not reducing the balance, just interest. If you only pay minimums, that $10,000 debt will take you 20 plus years to pay off and cost you over $20,000 in total interest. You'll pay $30,000 to borrow $10,000. Think about that. You're tripling the cost of whatever you bought. That vacation you put on a credit card, you actually paid triple for it. That furniture, triple. That random stuff you don't even remember, triple. But here's what makes credit card debt truly devastating. It compounds against you. Every month you don't pay it off, the interest gets added to the balance. Then next month, you're paying interest on the interest. It's reverse compounding. Instead of compound interest working for you, it's working against you. And while this is happening, you can't build wealth. Every dollar that goes to credit card interest is a dollar that can't be invested, can't compound, can't grow. It's just gone, transferred from you to the credit card company. Here's what Charlie would say about this. The first rule of compounding: never interrupt it unnecessarily. The second rule: don't let it compound against you. Credit card debt is compound interest working against you. It must be destroyed immediately. Let me give you a real example. A woman had $25,000 in credit card debt at 19% interest. She was paying $4,150 per year in interest alone. She was also investing $3,000 per year in her 401k, earning maybe 8% annually. She thought she was being smart, building for retirement while managing her debt. She was being stupid. Her debt was costing her $4,750 per year. Her investments were earning her maybe $240 per year on $3,000 invested. Net loss, $4,510 per year. I told her, stop the 401k contributions. Stop everything and attack the debt. She diverted that $3,000 per year, plus her raises and extra money, paid off the $25,000 in about 6 years. Then she started investing the $4,750 she'd been paying in interest. 20 years later, she has over $250,000 saved. If she kept the debt and kept investing $3,000 per year, she'd probably still have credit card debt and maybe $100,000 saved. The debt elimination strategy won by $150,000. Here's the math that should terrify you. $20,000 in credit card debt at 18% interest will cost you $3,600 per year. If that debt stays for 10 years, you'll pay $36,000 in interest. If you'd invested that $36,000 at 8% returns over the next 20 years, it would have become $168,000. So that $20,000 credit card debt actually cost you $168,000 in wealth you could have built. That's the true cost of credit card debt, not just the interest, but all the compound growth you miss because you're paying interest instead of investing. And here's what you'll probably do. Make minimum payments while continuing to invest. You'll tell yourself you're balancing debt payoff with investing. You're not balancing anything. You're losing mathematically every single month. Your action. If you have credit card debt, stop all investing. Immediately. Stop 401k contributions if there's no match. Stop everything. Calculate how much you can throw at credit card debt monthly. Pay off the highest interest rate card first, then roll that payment into the next highest rate. This is called the avalanche method, and it's the mathematically optimal approach. Don't buy anything on credit cards until every card is paid off. Cut them up if you have to. This is an emergency. Student loans, the gray area that requires actual thinking. Here's where it gets more complicated. Student loans. Because student loan interest rates vary wildly, from 3% to 8% or even higher for private loans. And this is where you actually have to think instead of following a simple rule. The framework still applies. Compare the interest rate to expected investment returns. But with student loans, there are additional factors. Tax deductibility, loan forgiveness programs, and the psychological weight of debt. Let's start with the math. Federal student loans are typically 4 to 6% interest. Private student loans can be 6 to 10% or higher. If your student loans are over 7%, you should probably pay them off aggressively before investing. If they're under 5%, you should probably invest instead. If they're 5 to 7%, it depends on your specific situation and risk tolerance. Here's why. If you have student loans at 4% interest and you invest in a diversified portfolio earning 8% annually, you're making 4% on the arbitrage. Over 30 years, that 4% difference compounds into substantial wealth. Let me show you. Say you have $30,000 in student loans at 4% interest. Minimum payment is $300 per month. You also have an extra $500 per month to either pay extra on the loans or invest. Option 1, pay off loans aggressively. You'll be debt-free in about 5 years. Then you invest $800 per month, $300 from old loan payment plus $500 extra for the next 25 years. At 8% returns, you end up with about $750,000. Option 2, pay minimums on loans while investing the extra $500. It takes you 11 years to pay off the loans while also building investments. Then you invest $800 per month for the next 19 years. You end up with about $800,000. Option 2 wins by $50,000 because you got compound interest working 6 years earlier. The math favors investing when interest rates are low. But, and this is critical, This only works if you're disciplined. If you'll invest that money but actually spend it on stupid stuff, pay off the debt. The psychological benefit of being debt-free might be worth more than the mathematical advantage of investing. Here's what Charlie would consider the certainty of the return. Paying off a 4% student loan gives you a guaranteed 4% return. Investing might give you 8%, but it's not guaranteed. Some years you'll lose money. If you can't handle that volatility, pay off the loan. Let me tell you about someone who got this wrong. Had $40,000 in student loans at 3.5% interest. Decided to aggressively pay them off because he hated debt. Paid an extra $1,000 per month and was debt-free in 3 years. Felt great. Meanwhile, his friend with the same loans paid minimums and invested the extra $1,000 per month. After 10 years, when both loans were paid off, the friend had about $180,000 invested. The guy who paid off early had about $110,000. The friend beat him by $70,000 because he understood the math. But here's the nuance. If those loans had been at 7% interest instead of 3.5%, paying them off aggressively would have been the right move. This is why the interest rate matters so much. Here's another factor. Student loan interest is tax deductible up to $2,500 per year. So if you're paying $3,000 per year in student loan interest and you deduct $2,500, your effective interest rate is lower than the stated rate. A 6% loan might effectively be 4.5% after the deduction. And if you're pursuing loan forgiveness programs, public service loan forgiveness, or income-driven repayment forgiveness, you definitely shouldn't pay extra. You should pay the minimum and invest the difference, because the loans will eventually be forgiven. Your action. Look at your student loan interest rates. If they're over 7%, treat them like an emergency and pay them off aggressively. If they're under 4%, pay minimums and invest the extra money. If they're 4 to 7%, run the numbers on both approaches and decide based on your risk tolerance and discipline. And if you're eligible for loan forgiveness programs, maximize those. Don't pay extra on loans that will be forgiven. Here's where I'm going to piss most of you off. Paying extra on your mortgage is usually a terrible financial decision, especially if you have a low interest rate. I can hear you screaming already. But I want to be debt-free. But Dave Ramsey says, but I don't want to owe the bank. I don't care. The math doesn't care about your feelings, and the math says investing usually beats paying off a low-interest mortgage. Let's break this down. If you have a mortgage at 3-4% interest, you should invest extra money instead of paying down the mortgage. If your mortgage is at 6% or higher, you might consider paying it off. And if it's at 7% plus, definitely pay it off. Here's why. A 3% mortgage is cheap money. Cheaper than inflation. Basically free in real terms. And you can earn 8 to 10% in the stock market over long periods. Why would you pay off 3% debt when you can earn 8% elsewhere? That's a 5% arbitrage working for you. Let me show you the math. Say you have a $300,000 mortgage at 3.5% interest. Payment is about $350 per month. You have an extra $500 per month. Should you pay extra on the mortgage or invest it? Option 1, pay extra $500 per month on mortgage. You'll pay it off in about 21 years instead of 30. You'll save about $65,000 in interest. Then you invest $1,850 per month, $350 from old mortgage payment plus $500 extra for the remaining 9 years. You end up with about $250,000 invested. Option 2, pay regular mortgage payment and invest the extra $500 per month. After 30 years, when the mortgage is paid off, you have about $745,000 invested. Option 2 beats option 1, by almost $500,000, $500,000, because compound interest working in your favor for 30 years beats saving $65,000 in mortgage interest. But here's what you'll say. What about the peace of mind of being debt-free? Fine. Calculate the value of that peace of mind. Is it worth $500,000? Because that's what it's costing you. Here's what Charlie would say. The big money is not in the buying and selling, but in the waiting. You need your money working in investments for as long as possible. Paying off a 3% mortgage interrupts compounding. It's mathematically suboptimal. Let me give you another angle. Your mortgage interest is tax deductible if you itemize. So a 3.5% mortgage might effectively cost you 2.8% after the tax deduction. Now compare that to 8 to 10% investment returns. The arbitrage is even larger. But here's where people get mortgages wrong. They refinance constantly to get a better rate and extend the loan term. Or they get home equity loans at higher rates to buy stuff. Or they use their house like an ATM, constantly borrowing against it. This is where the good debt versus bad debt argument matters. A mortgage on a house you can afford at a low fixed rate is good debt. A home equity line of credit to buy a boat is bad debt, even if the interest rate is the same. Let me tell you about someone who understood this. Bought a house in 2020, got a 2.75% 30-year mortgage. Everyone told him to pay it off fast. He ignored them, invested every extra dollar in index funds. 4 years later, his investments have grown substantially while his mortgage balance has barely changed. But his net worth is way higher than if he'd paid down the mortgage, because he understood arbitrage. Here's the caveat. If you can't control your spending, if you'd spend that extra $500 instead of investing it, pay off the mortgage. Forced savings through mortgage payoff is better than spending the money. But if you have discipline, investing beats paying off low-interest mortgages every time. Your action. Look at your mortgage interest rate. If it's under 4%, don't pay extra. Invest the money instead. If it's 4.6%, run the numbers for your specific situation. If it's over 6%, consider paying it off faster. And whatever you do, don't refinance a low rate for a higher rate. And don't take out home equity loans for consumption. The car loan trap, where most people destroy wealth. Here's a topic that deserves its own section because this is where most Americans absolutely destroy their wealth. Car loans. The average new car payment in America is now over $700 per month for 72 months. That's $5,400 over 6 years. And what do you have at the end? A 6-year-old car worth maybe $15,000, $20,000. You paid $5,400 for something worth $20,000. You lost $30,000. But here's the real cost. If you'd invested that $700 per month at 8% returns, you'd have about $67,000 after 6 years. So by financing a new car, you didn't just lose $30,000 in depreciation. You lost $67,000 in wealth you could have built. And then what do most people do? They trade in that 6-year-old car and finance another new car, another $700 per month, another 6 years. They spend their entire lives making car payments, never realizing they're destroying their ability to build wealth. Let me show you the lifetime cost. Say you start at age 25 with a car payment of $700 per month. Every 6 years, you get a new car with a new payment. At age 55, you've made car payments for 30 years. That's $252,000 in payments. If you'd bought reliable used cars for cash and invested that $700 per month instead, you'd have about $1 million at age 55. $1 million. The difference between retiring comfortably and working until you're 70. Car payments are one of the biggest wealth destroyers in America. And most people don't even realize it because Everyone has a car payment. It's normalized. You're all normalizing poverty. Here's what Charlie would say. A lot of people with high IQs are terrible investors because they've got terrible temperaments. And that is why we say that having a certain kind of temperament is more important than brains. The temperament to drive a 10-year-old car while your neighbors drive new ones. That temperament is worth millions over a lifetime. Let me give you a different perspective. If you absolutely must have a car loan, the interest rate had better be under 4%, and the loan should be 36 months maximum, not 72 months. If you can't afford the payments on a 36-month loan, you can't afford the car. Here's what you should actually do. Buy reliable used cars for cash. A 5-year-old Honda or Toyota for $15,000, $20,000 will last you another 10 years easily. Take the $700 per month you would have spent on a payment and invest it. In 6 years, you have $67,000 invested. In 12 years, about $165,000. In 20 years, about $420,000. That's the true cost of car payments, hundreds of thousands of dollars in wealth you'd never build because you need a new car every 6 years. But here's what you'll do. You'll finance a car because you need reliable transportation. Then 6 years later, that reliable car needs to be replaced with another new car. And you'll spend your entire life in debt, wondering why you can't get ahead. Your action: if you have a car loan over 5% interest, pay it off before investing. If it's under 4%, pay minimums and invest the extra. And once it's paid off, never take another car loan. Save up and buy your next car with cash, even if it means driving your current car for 10+ years. This one decision, never having a car payment, can make you a millionaire over your lifetime. The 401k match trap, the one exception to everything. Here's the one exception to the payoff high-interest debt first rule. If your employer offers a 401k match, always contribute enough to get the full match, even if you have credit card debt. Why? Because an employer match is free money. It's typically a 50-100% immediate return. If your employer matches 50% of your contributions up to 6% of your salary, that's a guaranteed 50% return on that money. You're not getting 50% anywhere else. Let me show you the math. Say you make $60,000 per year. Your employer matches 50% of contributions up to 6%. If you contribute $30,600 per year, 6% of $60,000. Your employer adds $1,800. That's $5,400 going into your 401k from a $30,600 contribution. That's a 50% instant return before any market gains. Even if you have credit card debt at 20% interest, the 401k match beats it in year one. After that, you should stop contributing beyond the match and attack the debt. But always get the full match first. Here's what people get wrong. They either don't contribute anything, leaving free money on the table, or they contribute way more than the match while carrying high-interest debt, prioritizing wrong. The optimal strategy: contribute exactly enough to get the full employer match, not more. Then use every extra dollar to pay off high-interest debt. Once debt above 7 to 8% is gone, then increase 401k contributions. Let me give you an example. Woman making $50,000 per year with a 50% match up to 6%. She contributes $3,000. Employer adds $1,500. But she also has $15,000 in credit card debt at 19% interest, costing her $2,250 per year. She was contributing $5,000 per year to her 401k, more than the match, while paying $2,150 per year in credit card interest. I told her, drop 401k to exactly 6%, just the match amount, and use the extra to attack the debt. She paid off the debt in about 3 years. Then she maxed out her 401k. 10 years later, she's way ahead of where she'd be if she'd kept the debt and kept contributing extra to the 401k. Here's Charlie's philosophy. Take a simple idea and take it seriously. The simple idea is get free money, employer match, then eliminate high-cost money, credit card debt, then invest aggressively, in that order. Simple. But most people screw it up. Your action. Check your 401k contribution. Are you getting the full employer match? If not, increase contributions immediately to get it. If you're contributing more than the match and you have high interest debt, drop your contribution to exactly the match amount and redirect the extra money to debt. Once high interest debt is gone, increase 401k contributions again. Here's where I'm going to acknowledge something most financial advisors won't. Sometimes the mathematically optimal decision isn't the right decision for you. Because humans aren't robots. We have emotions, and those emotions matter. If you have a 4% student loan and the math says to invest instead of paying it off, but the debt is causing you stress, anxiety, sleepless nights, pay it off. Your mental health is worth more than optimizing returns by 2 to 3%. But, and this is critical, you need to be honest about whether the debt is actually causing psychological damage or whether you're just making excuses to avoid following the math. Here's how to tell the difference. If you think about the debt constantly, if it genuinely stresses you out, if it's affecting your quality of life, that's real psychological damage. Pay it off. But if you just don't like debt in a vague way, that's not psychological damage. That's just emotion. And you should follow the math because that emotion is costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Let me tell you about the debt-free screamers. You've seen them. People who pay off mortgages in 5 years by living on rice and beans, then call into radio shows crying about being debt-free. They're so proud. They sacrificed everything for 5 years to be debt-free. But here's what they don't tell you. They gave up $300,000, $500,000 in wealth they could have built by investing that money instead of paying off a 3% mortgage. They feel great emotionally. They're way behind financially. Was it worth it? Only they can answer that. But I can tell you this. Feeling good about being debt-free doesn't pay for retirement. Math pays for retirement. Here's what Charlie would say. I think I've been in the top 5% of my age cohort all my life in understanding the power of incentives, and all my life I've underestimated it. Your incentive is feeling good now. The incentive you should have is building wealth for decades. Most people choose the wrong incentive. Let me give you a framework for when to prioritize psychology over math. Pay off debt for psychological reasons if the debt causes genuine anxiety or stress. You literally lose sleep over it. It's affecting your relationships or health. You've proven you lack the discipline to invest consistently. Follow the math. If you're just uncomfortable with debt conceptually, you're disciplined enough to actually invest the difference. You can handle seeing debt balances on statements without panicking. You understand compound interest and trust it to work. Most of you fall into the second category, but pretend you're in the first to justify emotional decisions. Be honest with yourself. Your action. For each debt you have, ask yourself, is this debt actually causing me psychological harm? Or do I just prefer not to have it? If it's causing real harm, anxiety, sleep loss, relationship stress, prioritize paying it off, even if the math says invest. If you just prefer not to have it, follow the math. And be brutally honest with this assessment. The action plan, what to actually do right now. Look, here's the bottom line. You need a specific strategy based on your specific debts. Here's the framework Charlie would use. Step 1. Emergency fund. Before you pay off debt or invest, you need $1,000, $2,000 in an emergency fund, not in the market, in a savings account. This prevents you from going deeper into debt when emergencies happen. Step 2. Get the 401k match. Contribute exactly enough to get your full employer match. This is free money that beats everything else. But don't contribute more than the match until later steps are done. Step 3. Kill high-interest debt. Pay off all debt over 7 to 8% interest before doing anything else. Credit cards, personal loans, high-interest student loans, destroy these. Use the avalanche method, highest rate first. Step 4. Build 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Once high-interest debt is gone, build your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of expenses. This protects you from life's disasters. Step 5. Evaluate medium interest debt. For debt at 4-7% interest, most student loans, some car loans, decide based on the math and your psychology. If the interest rate is 6% plus, or the debt stresses you out, pay it off. If it's under 5% and you're disciplined, move to Step 6. Step 6. Invest aggressively. Now you're ready. Max out 401k contributions. Fund IRAs. Invest in taxable accounts. This is where wealth is built. Step 7. Consider low-interest debt mortgages under 4%, car loans under 3%. These can wait. Keep making regular payments, but don't pay extra. Let your investments grow instead. This is the order of operations. Not what feels good, not what your parents did. The mathematically optimal order based on interest rates and returns. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Someone with $8,000 credit card debt at 19%, $25,000 student loans at 5%, $200,000 mortgage at 3.5%, $10,000 car loan at 6%, employer matching 50% up to 6% of salary. Here's what they do. Save $1 to $500 emergency fund. Start 401k at 6% to get match attack. The $8,000 credit card debt, kill it completely. Build emergency fund to $15,000, 3 to 6 months expenses. Decide on car loan and student loans. Probably pay off the 6% car loan. Keep the 5% student loans. Increase 401k to maximum. Fund Roth IRA. Invest extra money. Don't pay extra on the 3.5% mortgage. This is the strategy that builds wealth. It's not sexy. It's not emotional. It's math. Your action. Write out every debt you have with interest rates. Write out your income and employer match details. Apply this 7-step framework to your specific situation. Create a specific plan with dollar amounts and timeline. Then follow it. Not when it feels good, not when it's convenient. Now, look, here's what this all comes down to. Most of you are paying off the wrong debts in the wrong order for the wrong reasons. You're following emotion instead of math. Following advice from people who don't understand compound interest. Making decisions that cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Charlie Munger made billions by thinking rationally when everyone else thought emotionally. By doing math when everyone else followed feelings. By understanding that debt is just a tool. It's neither good nor bad. It's just numbers that need to be compared to other numbers. High-interest debt is a financial emergency that must be eliminated immediately. Low-interest debt is a tool that can help you build wealth if you're disciplined. And the difference between the two is usually around 6-7% interest. But you probably won't follow this advice. You'll keep making car payments instead of buying used cars for cash. You'll keep paying extra on your 3% mortgage while carrying 19% credit card debt. You'll keep doing what feels right instead of what is right. And that's fine. More opportunities for the few people who actually understand mathematics. But if you're in the group that gets it, that understands this is about logic, not emotion. You can build substantial wealth just by getting the debt versus investing decision right, by paying off expensive debt first, keeping cheap debt working for you, and letting compound interest do its magic for decades. This isn't get rich quick. This is get rich slowly but surely. Pay off the debts that are destroying you. Keep the debts that are helping you. Invest everything else. Do this consistently for 20, 30 years. Not sexy, not exciting, but it works. Now, if you want more brutal honesty about building wealth, more logic instead of emotion, more math instead of motivation, subscribe to this channel. We're not here to make you feel good. We're here to tell you what actually works, but only if you can handle the truth.